and welcome to our Culture magazine on I-24 News, where we bring you the best from the world of entertainment and art. Today, the world marks the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, set by the UN on the day the Auschwitz death camp was liberated. 69 years later, we dedicate our program to see how people remember the Holocaust through art and creation. Today we have an interview with star violinist Shlomo Mintz ahead of a special concert to be held in Rome. A new documentary takes girls who hadn't heard about the Holocaust to Auschwitz. And a look at how the horrors of the Second World War are dealt with in graphic novels. But we begin with Shlomo Mintz, who's been playing the violin since he was 3 years old. In the years since, he's played in some of the most famous concert halls around the world with the world's most celebrated orchestras. Mintz has also been involved in projects that connect young people to classical music and others that use music to bring people from different backgrounds together. Today, on this International Holocaust Memorial Day, he'll be playing in Rome in a special concert called Violins of Hope. It will bring together 12 violins and a cello that belong to musicians who did not survive the Holocaust. The instruments all have dramatic histories. They drifted between various hands until they were discovered and restored by Israeli violin maker Amnon Weinstein. I spoke with Shlomo Mintz about the Violins of Hope project just before he left for Rome. Hello, Shlomo Mintz. What's the message you wish to send to the world through the Violins of Hope concert?
The loss of dignity of a musician during war should never, ever be repeated. Those violins are telling a story, an incredible story. And I think that humanity in general needs to understand the importance of this message. And the message is that we have to cultivate our new generation to make more music instead of love, but music, which is love, than war. Preserving the dignity of a person, giving him the right to live, and to create and to produce and make beautiful sound and communicate with others can help stopping that war and avoiding wars in the future.
What does it feel like to play a violin that has such a long and turbulent history?
Sometimes a violin really tells a story of despair. And when you're actually playing it, your emotions start to slowly mix up. You let it deliberately mix up in a concert at the right moment, and you communicate this despair or a story that the violin has to tell you, together with the music, of course, that you're actually performing. And I think that's a beautiful and enriching experience for people of all kinds.
Can you tell us a story of one of these violins, a story that especially touched you?
I can think of a story of a very young partisan who lost his parents and went to the resistance in the forest with his violin, got killed in action, but the violin stayed intact and tells the story. So those stories are sometimes very, very dramatic.
What about the detective work that goes into finding these stories out?
We're still having a lot of resistance, and I'm hoping that with this concert, people will really, worldwide, will open up their heart and come forth with an instrument that tells a story, a true instrument, a true testimonial. We're still encountering certain difficulties from certain age groups and certain people by hiding instruments that maybe once belonged to Jews and once belonged to other very famous people. But you can dig a little bit, just a little bit, into the history of other countries, and you'll find incredible stories about people who passed away, who wanted to have, during the atrocities of war, who wanted to continue to live but couldn't, got killed in action. The violin stayed and tells a story.
Do you see a special significance playing alongside a Muslim violinist?
Well, we're not different. I mean, we're communicating in the same way, and we're encouraging audiences in the same way. It's just that sometimes certain facets in history have shown us, unfortunately, a different and a bloodier aspect of our coexistence. But I think we can coexist, and we should try and do our very best to coexist.
Now, you have two projects that aim to bring music to young people. One is Keshet Eilon, and the other one is an online music academy. What can you tell me about those?
The iClassical Online Academy has really tremendous benefits. We are doing many things for the first time, and we're in a way pioneers in online lessons and online concerts, and an area where a lot of work could be done to connect younger people to classical music. I suppose it's shlomomintz.com, but it's very easy to find over the net. And it actually does another form of communication, just like Violins of Hope. I mean, it connects people, it improves their playing, it teaches them to do certain things, it teaches them to live a certain life through experience of a more aged artist. And it tries to prepare for them a future that they can feel comfortable in living. Keshet Eilon used to do that as well. I'm no longer involved in that project, but right now I'm concentrating on this, and also on Crown Montana Classic Festival, where a lot of master classes are being given, not only concerts, to improve the quality of exchange and communication among younger generations.
Shlomo Mintz, thank you so much. On a Russian TV trivia game show in 2012, two young twin girls were asked, "What does the term Holocaust mean?" The response was, "A brand of wallpaper glue." Shocked by this response, Mumin Shakirov, a journalist and film director, decided to take these two sisters to Auschwitz and teach them about this tragic time in history. He documented the painful journey in a film called Holocaust, Is This Wallpaper Glue? Our David Gombin has the story.
Клей, может быть, Холокост. Холокост мне, в принципе, это ни о чем не говорит, Холокост.
While the majority of Russians smirked when hearing the Karatigan twins' ill-informed answer, journalist and director Mumin Shakirov decided he needed to act.
I was interested to know who these girls are and why they responded this way. I wanted to know what their background is and where they grew up. I started searching for them. It took me almost 2 months to find them, but when I did, I invited them to the Radio Liberty station in Moscow. Speaking of their origins, their families, they began to interest me. It was then that I realized that their personality was very touching, that they're very nice girls. It was during this interview that the idea came to me to show them the concentration camps.
It took Mumin 6 months to raise money for the project. Evgenia and Ksenia Karatigan were initially very excited for their first trip abroad, but later, when confronted with the realities of the Holocaust horrors, their excitement turned into deep sadness. What shocked Mumin Shakirov most when reaching Auschwitz was the fact that there was absolutely no Russian presence there.
There were no Russian groups, no Russian heard in the background. And this shocked me, especially since the first tests of the Zyklon B gas were carried out on Russian POWs, and Russians were also victims of the Nazis.
The ignorance the Karatigan twins displayed is representative of the general ignorance in Russia regarding the Holocaust. The Soviet communist regime largely hid the Holocaust as a dark page of history that was never taught.
Most Russians have no idea what the term Holocaust means. They know that there was a genocide of the Jewish people during the Second World War, but this term is never mentioned in the history books in Russia.
Shakirov sees a true need to inform the Russian population of the horrors that took place during the Second World War. At the end of their journey, when Mumim Shakirov asked the Karatigan twins to talk about the Holocaust, Ksenia answered that she doesn't know how many people would be interested in what happened 70 years ago. However, through this journey, the film tries to prove her wrong.
Amir Benayoun is one of Israel's most popular musicians. A new song he released in commemoration of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day talks about the remaining Holocaust survivors in Israel and the need to remember their stories. He sang it today at the official ceremony in the Auschwitz death camp. Here's the story behind the song.
The song, The Last One Remaining, echoes a long-held plea among Jewish communities to never forget.
I was very, very touched by these lyrics. They speak of the painful situation we're in. There are about 190,000 Holocaust survivors in Israel right now. They're all over 80, and in a few years, there won't be anyone left to tell their stories. So we should tell these stories right now, shout them out.
Singer Amir Benayoun composed the music to Moshe Kleghoff's lyrics about the last Holocaust survivor and the wish that the memory of the catastrophe will live on even when there's no one left to give first-hand testimony. In Israel, the song has an extra layer of meaning since Benayoun is a Sephardic Jew whose roots are in Algeria, and as such his family was not directly affected by the Holocaust. Benayoun traveled to the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland with a delegation of Israeli parliament members as part of the commemoration of International Holocaust Remembrance Day, where he sang the song in the official ceremony. He was stirring with emotion before leaving.
It's an experience I can't allow myself to pass up. I have to see that frightening place. I want to connect, for however long, to the atrocities that happened there. And I hope I can do that and still remain on my feet.
69 years after the liberation of Auschwitz, the words of Benayoun's song will resonate on the same ground where so many lost their lives and commanded the world to remember.
I'm joined now in the studio by Avri Rosen-Tzvi. Hi, Avri.
Hi, Oded.
We're going to talk about?
We're going to talk about graphic novels that deal with the Holocaust. Naturally, it all starts in 1991 with the publication of Maus, Art Spiegelman's.
I think the most famous.
One of the most famous graphic novels in the world. It was a very important graphic novel, both in terms of Holocaust memoir and for the graphic novel, because it showed people that comics can be serious, that they can deal with serious issues. It popularized the term graphic novel, and it also started, and it was also the first graphic novel to win the Pulitzer Prize, which is a big journalistic prize. But it was also game-changing for literature of the Holocaust because it's a very, very sort of private story. It's a very intimate story. It's highly symbolic because, as we know, it uses mice to portray Jews and cats to portray the Nazis. Rims and rims of academic... Rims and rims of academic work has been written about this, and it also sort of opened up the floodgates for people to write about the Holocaust in more varied terms, such as graphic novels.
If we look at Israel and how Israeli graphic novels have dealt with it, what do we find?
Well, in the last few years, we had a few very prominent works. We have RUTU MODANS, The Property, which won the Eisner Award, the big award of the comics world, and is now nominated for the Grand Prix at the Angoulême.
Right.
It's a story. It's a very classic sort of second-generation story. It's a fictionalized account of how.
It has color.
and it has color. Yeah, it's a fictionalized account of the family story where a granddaughter and her grandmother go to Poland, sort of confront memories of the war. And we have Michel Kishka's also. His book is also actually called Second Generation, and it's about sort of growing up in the shadow of a father who's been through the war and never talked about it, and he sort of explores the story.
Right. Now, why do you think there's this natural connection between graphic novels and the memory of the Holocaust?
Well, first of all, graphic novels are a very introspective medium. You have silence in it, and you can show in like very graphic details. You can show the horrors of the Holocaust. It's still very impressionistic. It's not reality. It's not photographs. But also a lot of comics creators tend to write autobiography and biography because you can sort of look at your life from the outside.
Right.
You draw yourself in the third person, and a lot of these stories are...
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off, Avli, but thank you so much, and thank you for joining us as well for this special edition.